ahead and at least introduce myself. My name is Ebony. I'm with the Bates International Group, and I see, Will. We've got Will. He's a friendly face. He's been with us for a long time, and you want to say hi, Will?
Oh no, just top of. Hey, good to be here. Good to be here.
Yeah. And also too, I see Muhammad. I don't know if you're able to unmute Muhammad. I know you've been rocking and rolling, man. So, well, Muhammad, he's on our team as well, and I know that he is, in a different time zone right now, so he is definitely busy right now. But as I mentioned, we're the Bates International Group. We do this roundtable once a month. It's the first Thursday of the month, so same link, same time, 6 to 6:30. You can come and join us. Just click the link. And, if you haven't already, definitely check us out on YouTube and subscribe to the channel, and you can see all of our videos from the past. We always try and keep things, new and updated. But this month, Kimberly, I'm so happy that you joined us. I can't remember the last time we had a title company on to talk to us. So it's really exciting that you're here from Capital Title. So why don't we go ahead and get started with you? Oh, one last thing I should say is our next roundtable will be December 1st. Thursday, December 1st. So definitely join us. But Kimberly, go ahead and kick us off. We're already at 6:01, so I stole one of your minutes.
No, that's perfectly fine. Thank you so much for having me. I am really excited to be a part of your roundtable and to, help share any information I can about the title side of real estate transactions. So first, I'm going to tell everybody a little bit about what we do as a title company, because I have found that the vast majority of people outside of the real estate industry really don't know what a title company does or what a title attorney does. Then I'm going to give you a little bit of tips on how you can make the transaction go smoothly and how we as a title company really help support all of the players in the transaction from the beginning to the end and after there. So first of all, what does the title company do? Short story, basically we do everything after you sign that contract. So your agents do a lot of work to make sure that they get you the best deal possible and the best property possible. And then we take that contract and we go through it with a fine-tooth comb. We get a title report. We do the same thing with the title report, and we tie up all the loose ends and make sure that when you get to the closing table at the end of the process, you know exactly what's happening and where every penny of your money is going. So for those of you who don't know exactly what a title report is, sort of like if you've heard about a Carfax report for your car, same sort of thing, but for the property that you want to buy. So we go back and we look at the last 60 years of what has happened with that property. Who's bought it, who sold it, who put a lien on it, who released a lien, and if there are any other sort of things going on with the property. A lot of times you'll have easements that may allow like phone companies or water companies access to the property to do certain maintenance or readings. Or you might have easements where you share a driveway with somebody. We take a look at all of that and we put it in a wonderful little packet called a title commitment. And we send that over to your lender to make sure that we do everything to make sure that you get the marketable and insurable title that you want. Which takes me to my next little tidbit about title insurance, because you all are going to be asked to purchase title insurance. So what title insurance is, it works differently than any other insurance that you get, like your car insurance or your homeowner's insurance. That all protects you from things that might happen in the future. Where your title insurance protects you against everything that has happened in the past. So when we do our title report, we go back and we look at the last 60 years and we know everything that we can find. However, there are some things that may fall through the cracks or things that happened more than 60 years ago. And somebody may come and knock on your door and say, hey, my great grandmother willed me this property and I own it and you don't. And what are you going to do? You're going to have to go get a lawyer and fight that. And as we all know, lawyers are very, very expensive. So at closing, when you buy your title insurance policy, which is based on the sales price of the property, you're paying a fraction of what you would actually pay in attorney's fees to fix that sort of problem. So you pay a minimal premium upfront, and it covers you the entire time that you own that property. So if anything pops up, you know that you already have a lawyer that will go to court and fight for you, which is also awesome. We offer Eagle policies, which cover some post-settlement protections. So if anybody has seen those like title lock commercials where they talk about how someone can steal the title to your house, that's basically a scam. And if you've got the Eagle policy, all that's already covered because you're covered from post-settlement fraud. So if someone tried to record a fraudulent deed or take out another loan on your property without you knowing, you again would have a lawyer that would go ahead and fight for you and take care of that for you. So as a title company, we make sure that everything is in line and in place so that you can be issued that title policy and that all of the information you need to know is there for you at closing. So we do a lot of information gathering. We get a lot of, we have to get payoffs. We talk to HOA, homeowners associations and condominium associations so that we get all the fees associated with your property so you know exactly what you're going to have to pay in the future and what's expected of you. We also make sure that, you know, anything along the way you're fully aware of and that you have the knowledge to understand what's happening. So a lot of people have questions about how am I supposed to take title? And we make sure that you're supplied with the right information to take, you know, to make the right decision. So there's a couple of different ways that you can take title. You can take title as tenants in common, which means you would each own 50% of the property. So if you were doing more of an investment deal where you didn't want the property to be transferred to the other individual upon your death, that's what you would do. But if you were buying a property with, you know, your husband or wife, or if you were buying a property with another family member that you wanted to be able to inherit that property, you would take title differently as tenants by the entirety or joint tenants with rights of survivorship. So if anybody passed away, the remaining people on the deed would automatically own the property. I think what's
it would still have to go through probate and all of that, or like would it automatically go to them?
It would automatically go to them. So if it was tenants by the entirety, which is reserved for spouses only, or joint tenants with rights of survivorship, which is the same, it's just not for spouses, it would automatically transfer. So they wouldn't have to go through probate. Essentially, excuse me, they would, you know, if they got ready to transfer the property later in life, they would simply just have to show the death certificate of, you know, the spouse or the other owner. So that property would not have to go through probate.
How long? So let's say somebody is, you know, they're ailing and they're like, you know, I don't have my, you know, all the stuff, my will worked out or whatever. I should change, you know, the way we're holding title. How long does it take? And is that something that people ever do, or, you know?
Yeah, people do that all the time, actually. And we get requests all the time for deed transfers. And essentially, it doesn't take long at all. It takes as long as it does for us to draft the deed and for the jurisdiction to record it, which depending on the jurisdiction is anywhere from, you know, 1 hour to 7 days, for example. So if you find that you have, like if your mother is ailing and she wants to add a child to her property, We would simply just need to get the proper information from the owner and know who they wanted to add to the deed. And at that point, just get it signed and get it recorded. It's a pretty straightforward process. We do also a lot of deeds into trusts for people that are doing estate planning. So instead of them adding like a daughter or a relative to the deed, they put the property into a trust, which would allow it to also not go through probate.
And Kim, quick question. This is Mohammed. Excuse me, and I apologize. I'm a bit under the weather, so you don't get to see all of the madness that comes with being sick. My camera's off. When you place a property into a trust, what implications does that have for people from a tax standpoint? By doing so, does that allow the heirs to avoid the capital gains or inheritance tax on that property?
Very good question. And I unfortunately am not an estate attorney or a tax attorney, so I do not have all of the specifics to that. But I can do some asking around and definitely get you some answers. I know that putting property into a trust, it sort of safeguards it from tax, like inheritance taxes at the end, like, you know, when that individual dies. If you're real rich and you have a whole lot of money, the theory, if I remember correctly from my estate planning class in law school, is to get rid of everything before you die, because then that way the government can't take it away from you. So it kind of depends on how big your estate is and what your trust says, because there are a lot of different laws on irrevocable and revocable trusts and all of the tax implications. So it's a pretty loaded question, and you would have to have like a lot of more details to fully explain that to whoever you're dealing with.
Understood.
Go ahead, Mohammed. Go ahead.
No, I'm good. I'm bowing out.
Well, so I was going to kind of dovetail off of that and ask, you know, because we have agents on, we have people, we have buyers, sellers, you know, the whole gamut. So when questions like this come up, because, you know, you're not an estate attorney, you know, do you have resources or do you have go-tos that, you know, we can call you with these questions and, you know, you might be able to refer us to somebody, or how do you handle that? And how could you support us as realtors when these things come up?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the best things about working for Capital Title is that they have been in the business for, you know, over 30 years, close to 40. And we've had attorneys working for us the entire time. So there's a whole team of attorneys that have been working with me, that anytime there's a question I don't know, I can reach out to them. And they've already built a very solid network of other people to work with. So we do have a list of referral attorneys for complex real estate litigation, estate planning, and tax planning, all those sort of things.
Okay, that's great to know.
And, you know, that's why we try to be the biggest resource possible, because when people call us, we don't want to, you know, say we don't know. We want to try and do our best to help you, however we can. Because there is a lot when it goes into buying property that, you know, people are nervous, and it's really important to manage their expectations and make them feel safe in the whole process. And, you know, that's what we try to do our best as a title company.
That makes sense.
One of the other things I was going to touch on was just some tips on how buyers and sellers can make this a smooth transaction. One of the first things I'm going to say may sound kind of silly, but it's funny because it's a problem we run into every single day. When you get ready to sign a real estate contract, know what your current legal name is. It's not what your name used to be when you bought the property. It's not the name that you're going to change it to after you get married in 6 months. And it's not a name that you think you might one day change your name to. It's the name that is on the ID that you're going to present at closing, because that's what we as the settlement agent is going to look at. And if the name on your ID doesn't match all of the paperwork you're about to sign, we're going to have to take some time to fix some things. And some people don't really realize that implication and don't understand, because, you may use nicknames, or you may have, a former name. And it's just really important for people to understand that no matter what you may go by, use the name that's on that ID that you come to closing with, so that it will be the smoothest transaction as possible. When we have to change things at the table, everybody gets a little frustrated and it's not fun. One of the other things I was going to mention about making transactions smooth is you have to be honest with yourself and with everyone else you're working with. So if you're working with a lender, be honest with them. They're going to find out about your second car loan. They're going to find out about, whatever payments or debts or liens you have against you. And the more honest you are with the people you work with, the easier the transaction will be from beginning to end. And, same thing with your realtors. If you're listing, eventually your realtor is going to find out that you might have a big tax lien against you that has to be dealt with before you can sell the property, or things along those lines. And then it's also to be important to be honest with yourself about how much you can afford, because you want to have a really good loan officer that you can be honest with, and that's going to tell you exactly how much that payment is going to be. Because some loan officers will maybe try to guide you in the wrong direction, and make you feel like you can afford something you can't. So it's important to be vigilant on your own behalf to make sure that you're working with the right people, you're getting steered in the right direction, and that you really know what you're getting yourself into, which is why I always encourage people to review all of the closing disclosures that you get sent and call us. Let us know, what am I paying for? What is this fee? Because it's our job to educate you on what you're getting yourself into.
This comes up. I think this is one thing, that is helpful is, not the closing disclosure, but just sort of a preliminary, breakdown of the, the fees and what the settlement costs are going to be. Because our brokerage, for example, they want us to have a signed copy of that. And so that's something that I think would be helpful, just, giving, managing up and giving that feedback, for us early on in the sale to get something like that for our clients and customers, some kind of rough estimate. Is that outside of the purview? Does that need to come from the lender, or can the title company really early on in the sale, as we're going through things, kind of give a breakdown of what the estimated costs are going to be once the, with the taxes and all that?
So there's a couple of different things that I can always help with, and I can help realtors on behalf of their clients, or buyers and sellers can reach out to me, and lenders can reach out to me, and I can give anybody an estimate on our title fees and what the recordation and transfer tax will be. Plus,
if we have the house in mind with the sale price, so if we give you the property, let's say we're under contract, like we get under contract. So at that point, is it too early? Like once we're under contract, if we got really good for you, to be like, congratulations. And by the way, here's a breakdown of what we see that your costs are going to be, because what we run into as realtors is, we're selling different counties, different states. And so those fees are different. And I always get a little bit, reluctant to do my own math on that. And, I would rather it come from the title company or the lender, and the lender, they don't have it. So I'm just wondering, can it come from the title company early on in this, in the transaction, and what's the possibility of that happening?
So it kind of depends if you're working with a buyer or a seller, and if your buyer is getting a loan or not. So a net seller sheet is something that we call it. It would be an estimate. It would be based on the sales price of the property, and then it would have all of the title fees, recordation and transfer tax. Plus, at that point, if you knew there was a payoff on the property, we can include that as well. And we can give you a really good estimate on what your seller is going to walk away with at the end of the day. Excuse me. For a buyer, I can give you a lot of the same information. I can give you what our title fees would be, and the and the recordation and transfer tax. However, condo fees, HOA fees, they take a little bit longer to get in. And then lender fees take a little bit longer to get in. However, your buyer should get a lender estimate at the beginning of that process, and I should be able to combine the two, which would give them that very general estimate of what they're going to have to bring at closing.
Okay, that's helpful, because we kind of get hounded for it, from all sides, and so to have some buy-in, I think would be helpful in supporting the sale.
And we can give those estimates prior to you even signing a contract. If you just come to me and say, hey, I have somebody who wants to buy this property, and this is what we're thinking the terms are going to be, I can give that to you. Because one of the things that Capital Title will do is we will beat any bona fide quote from another competitor. So if you have a buyer that's shopping around, which is important, everybody wants to save money where they can, and they find a title company that might give them a better deal, just send it over to me, because I know that we can provide better and more consistent service. And I can work with those fees and make sure that your clients are happy.
Thank you. And and I'll say it on here because, again, some people tune in and they don't have any experience and they're just watching it. I think it's kind of surprising for buyers whenever, they ask us, well, how much money exactly do I need to have on settlement day? And we're like, well, it could, it's just like, are you kidding? You should know this. And it's like, there's some variations. There are a lot of things that go into it. So that's very helpful.
And I think to build on that, what I find most beneficial being on the title side of things is to work with a local loan officer, somebody that somebody that you can rely on. I know that a lot of home buyers will go out there and shop for the lowest interest rate or who can ever give them the best deal. But they don't realize on the customer service end of it, how much it can actually hurt their experience when buying a home. So if they're working with a loan officer that, both you and I trust, and we know we get along with, we can work on those estimates far before they even put a contract in on a home and make that, clear where they're going to know up front before they even sign a contract, roughly how much money they're going to need to bring within, a couple $100, which I think is very helpful for people because they need to have that realistic, estimate in front of them, because there's so much that goes into it, so many moving parts that people may not realize. And to give them the opportunity to fully review it and, and ask the professionals that they're working with, because that's what we're here for, right? I mean, we're here to support these people making a giant decision. And if they have a question, we should be able to answer it.
And speaking of questions, I want to, just take a quick second and before you go on to your, one of your next points to see if there are any questions that are out there. We're, only 8 minutes away from, the end of our our segment here. It always goes really quickly. Is there any questions out there?
No.
No questions. I kind of had one, so could you touch on what a quitclaim deed is? And is that an example of, my ailing family member, wants to switch ownership, is that an example of when you would use that, or no? Because it's something we hear often.
Sorry, my internet cut out just a little bit. So
I don't know if I was frozen or you were frozen. It's one of those things. I might have been frozen. I asked about quitclaim deeds because it's something that you hear often and when you use them.
So a quitclaim deed is really like, in brief terms, like an uninsured deed. It's sort of something that's done when people want to get somebody off a property or onto a property, where you're not going through a whole title search and you're not actually selling the property. So a lot of times you'll see divorced couples do a quitclaim deed where they had bought the property together, but now they're figuring out how to separate. And so a quitclaim deed will be recorded, signed by both of the spouses, leaving the property to one of the spouses. Or sometimes, you will have a quitclaim deed with estates. So if someone passes away and, it's supposed to be left to a particular person, you can file a quitclaim deed, and the personal representative transfers the property from the estate to the heir. So essentially a quitclaim deed is just something that is recorded without a formal transaction. There's no actual sale. It's just a transfer in the interest of the property without a full title search.
So that's one of the examples, and I don't know if I cut out, this is an example of the family member that just wants to do something quick because something changed in their life.
Correct. And as long as they're mentally capable, they have the mental capacity, that's perfectly acceptable. But that is something that we as the title company have to take into consideration. If you say, hey, my grandmother has Alzheimer's and we want her to sign a deed transferring the property, we have to look into that because we have to make sure that that they have the capacity to actually sign that deed. When you are dealing with older, ailing individuals that may have some, cognitive issues, you have to be very careful. And it's sort of a fine line that you walk, and you have to make sure that you know who you're dealing with and that you have the right guidance. And I think that's important for agents to know as well. You have to get to know your clients, and you'll get a feeling if they're trying to pull something over on their mom or dad, or if they're, it's in their general goodwill for them to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of times it's something unfortunate that we'll probably all see in property when we work in property, is that when people feel like they're entitled to something free, they'll do nasty things. And we see it a lot in property because people will fight over estates. They'll fight over free money.
Yeah, there was an article, about that, there are a lot of families who are struggling with that, especially as, baby boomers are aging and all of that. When someone does like, a change in title, are the fees, how are they different? Obviously you're not buying title insurance and things of that nature. So the fees are much less, I assume.
Yes, it's straightforward. We just have a deed prep fee, which includes the recording fees. I believe it's $550 or $600, and we draft the deed, get it signed, and get it recorded.
And so that's what you were saying, is that it could take, a matter of a couple of hours. Is that a matter of like when you get it recorded? Is that what you mean?
Well, that's the recording time for like, honestly, specifically PG County, because I was just dealing with a PG County deed. But we e-record everything for any jurisdiction that allows it. And most of the time when you're dealing with e-recording, it's a pretty quick process, anywhere from like 1 hour to roughly 7-day turnaround. And that's after we have the document signed. So for us to prepare a deed takes maybe a day, and then we just have to schedule a time to have the appropriate parties come in and get it signed and notarized, and then we submit it for recording. So at that point, once we submit it for recording, we're just waiting on the state or the county.
Okay.
Which was one thing I did want to mention when we were talking about how people, a lot of people don't buy and sell homes all that frequently. So their last experience may have been 15 or 20 years ago. That recording does work a little differently, and that things are e-recorded, which means electronic documents are submitted to the county for recording. They record them, and then we get an e-document back. So there's no longer the fancy original deed with like a gold seal on it that means anything. So when your clients don't get original deeds in the mail, they shouldn't be, confused or concerned, because really at any point I can print a copy of your deed off of land records, and it's just as sufficient as anything provided to you otherwise. And I think sometimes it's important to mention that to your clients, because some people, because we don't buy and sell property all that often, they envision it like the movies, and it's not.
Well, we're at 6:30. I want to just make sure there are no other questions out there for Kimberly at the moment. Okay, so Kimberly, could you just tell us how we can find you, and if we want to settle with you, like where your offices are, and do you do any kind of remote settlements or anything like that? Let us know where we can find your services.
So we close properties in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. I have offices throughout all 3 states. So it just kind of depends on where you're located. I find the most convenient place. I can do remote online closings for sellers and cash buyers. I can also do remote online notarizations for powers of attorney if you have people that are going to be out of town when it's time to close. And the best way to get in touch with us is via email. So my email is kmulkey@capitaltitle.com. It's KMULKEY@capitaltitle.com. And you can always call. I'm always happy to answer questions that anybody has.
Well, wonderful. Half hour is never enough. I know that. And, it's not supposed to be, because we want you to come back. We want people to get in touch with you and have further conversations about, your services and how you can help. So we really appreciate you stopping by and being a part of the roundtable this month.